The only difference between a panic attack and an orgasm are your thoughts. In both scenarios, we're breathing heavily in and out of the mouth. It's just that with the panic attack, we don't feel safe. And in an orgasm, we're feeling very safe.
What if the difference between panic and peak performance was simply how you breathe? Sara Thornhill transformed her own panic attacks into a proven system for nervous system regulation. After landing in an ambulance at 29, she developed breakthrough breathwork techniques that help entrepreneurs regulate their nervous system without apps or medications. You'll learn Sarah's nasal belly breathing method for instant anxiety relief, her 5 step technique for nervous system reset, and how to turn stress into your competitive advantage through conscious breathing. If you're waking up at 3 a.m. with a racing mind, this gives you the inner power to reclaim control and build sustainable success.
Sara, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
I was really impressed by the information that I read about your company, Pranatova, and also about the work that you do, the breath work that you do, and how you actually assist entrepreneurs with just reclaiming clarity and just being more confident and having more purpose. If you can just maybe share with us how you started this work.
The breath is our life force energy. Literally, it's the time on our birth certificate and our death certificate. And when we're stressed and overwhelmed, it's the first thing to go, unfortunately. We get a tight chest. We feel like we can't breathe. We might go into overwhelm or panic. And I started doing this work because of a panic attack that I had 15, 16 years ago. I didn't even know that it was a panic attack for about an hour. I just thought I was stressed about something in my life. There was something going on at work, something going on in my personal life. And I was going about my day, and I thought I was having a heart attack because of the tightness in the left side of my chest, where I thought my heart is really gripping. And by the time I got to work, I was working in corporate at the time. I thought, this is not okay. And I had read that heart attack symptoms are very different for women. So I went next door and asked my coworker to drive me to the emergency room. And of course, that landed me in the back of an ambulance. And by the time I got to the hospital, I was calmed down because they had given me oxygen. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't be in the back of an ambulance. But of course, they were worried that I was having a heart attack. And they did an EKG and said, you have a perfect heart. I was 29 years old at the time. And so I really started looking into what causes these moments of panic, stress. I started researching nervous system regulation because I had a dysregulated nervous system. And it took me years to come up with the system that I have, that I teach my clients on how to regulate their nervous system, how to watch their thoughts with curiosity instead of judgment, how to really be present in the body. And the breath is a really fantastic anchor for that. So this story has been over a decade and a half, and it's really led me home to myself, because when we can breathe easy, we really have a lot of control.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about the work that you do is that no one is exempt. Male, female, solopreneur, someone who's getting a W-2. This can actually assist anyone. And so let's unpack that, because one of the things that you mentioned was that you did not recognize the signs. And so let's talk about what an unbalanced nervous system looks like so that someone can recognize the signs.
I'm going to say something a little outlandish, but I hope that you don't need to edit this out. The only difference between a panic attack and an orgasm are your thoughts.
Okay, your thoughts.
In both scenarios, we're breathing heavily in and out of the mouth. It's just that with the panic attack, we don't feel safe. And in an orgasm, we're feeling very safe.
Very safe. Extremely safe. Wow.
And so what's going on is sympathetic nervous system arousal. Now, does that mean if you're having a lot of sex or having a lot of orgasms that you're dysregulated in the nervous system? No. It's about the thoughts that come along with it. And it's been scientifically proven that our thoughts actually create our reality, and it affects scientific studies. That's why they have to do double-blind studies, because the impressions and the beliefs of those people who are measuring the outcomes will tend to affect it, and if they know what they're looking for. That's why Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So a dysregulated nervous system really starts in your mind.
And so you mentioned monitoring and controlling your thoughts. For someone who is super busy or someone who lacks the ability or the willpower to just pay attention for long periods of time, how do we start to do that? Because multitasking has become a thing. It's, oh, I'm multitasking, I'm getting all these things done. But when you're talking about focusing and paying attention to something that you did not even know was an issue, where do we start?
Such a good question. And I think I could probably talk on that for 6 or 7 hours. And the simple answer is we start day by day, moment by moment, with our attention, with our awareness, which are slightly different things. But where you place your awareness is where you exist. When we are focusing on a certain thing or a certain item, we're literally calling that into our reticular activating system. And so if you tell somebody, for example, I want you to find all of the things in the room that are round or fuzzy, that is a reticular activating system task to sort through everything. It's like when you're looking for a car, you don't go in and deselect Chevrolet and Jeep and Buick. You select for what you want. And our brains work the same way. So if you want to focus and remain steadfast, then you work on that. And of course, multitasking is very common. And I do it sometimes as well. If I'm doing a mindless task on the computer and I might have a podcast playing in the background, neither of which require my full attention. But if it's something really important, obviously, sometimes it's hard to even listen to music if we're editing a document that really requires a lot of our focus. And that has to do with the prefrontal cortex, which is this front part of the brain, part of the neocortex, which makes us human. And it's our place where it's like the brain CEO, a lot of logic, a lot of executive functioning skills. When we are dysregulated, we're living from the limbic brain, which is that state of the 4 F's of stress, right? Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, which is that dreaded people pleasing.
Right.
But when we can switch over into actually focusing on what we want and what we need and being aware of where we are at all times, then that's going to improve our ability to actually harness the prefrontal cortex so that we can relax into the body, notice the breath, and watch the mind with curiosity instead of judgment, because curiosity is the beginning of all change.
And so with the breath work, I know it's more than just breathing in and breathing out. What are some of the techniques that you would have to master to go from that feeling of being unsafe to that safe place?
Couple of very simple things. And I'll just say it in one phrase: nasal belly breathing. We want to breathe in and out of the nose because the nose is much more efficient at oxygenating us. It filters the air, it humidifies the air, and it warms the air. Whereas breathing in and out of the mouth is less efficient and it doesn't have all those abilities, all those properties. And then we want to belly breathe, which is a little bit of a misnomer. We call it a belly breath because it's activating the diaphragm, which is shaped like a little parachute, right at that area where your ribs splay out, that's where your diaphragm sits. And most people are not activating the diaphragm much during the day, just a tiny little bit for the inhale and the exhale. But when we activate the diaphragm fully, it flattens, and our lungs, that you'll see in some sort of a diagram online, will actually fully inflate to their full capacity instead of being only concentrated here at the chest where we feel a lot of stress and anxiety. So when the diaphragm flattens, it presses our internal organs, our GI system out. And so it looks like the belly is inflating, but really it's full lung capacity. So if you can just remember nasal, belly breathing, you're going to be a leg up. And then a pro tip is simply extend the exhale. So inhale for half the time that you exhale, or exhale for double the time that you inhale. Now, you don't need to count it on an actual seconds on a clock, but just count, like inhale for 3, exhale for a count of 6, or inhale for 4, exhale for a count of 8. Most people are breathing way too many times per minute, and just this activation and then allowing the air to pass through a longer part of the body, humidifying it, warming it, and of course, making it ready for absorption is going to really help with that nervous system regulation.
For those listeners and viewers who are totally new to these concepts, what sort of routine would you recommend so that this becomes like muscle memory?
I think it really starts with relaxation through the body. And so I give my clients a 5 Pro technique. It's a really specific technology that you don't need any electronics for. You're working with the natural technology of the body. And it's a systematic way to relax through not only these really important glands, hormonal changes in the body that regulate our nervous system, but also a lot of these glands that regulate our immunity. So it's working on the muscular relaxation, it's improving our immunity, and it's also helping us regulate the way that we feel. That's what our hormones do, is regulate how we feel. So it's a systematic way to relax so that we can actually oxygenate. And we can very simply just start with grounding through the feet. And I know that sounds a little woo, but a lot of people just aren't aware of where their body exists in space for most of the day. So if you just place your attention, your awareness on the toes, the heels, the feet, and then begin to systematically notice, what muscles am I tensing that I don't actually need right now? And a really big one is the jaw, the tongue. A lot of times we're holding that very tightly. A lot of people feel a lot of tension in the neck, where the occipital, where the neck and the head meet, or where the neck and the back meet. We hold a lot of tension there, especially from driving and washing dishes. And of course, being on the computer and texting, a lot of that tension is here. And a lot of awareness on the body is going to give you a really big leg up, even if you don't know the full 5 Pro technique, even if you don't have some of these simple, I call them pocket size techniques, pocket size technologies. They're little sips, and SIP just stands for soften into presence. It's allowing you to actually be present in the body, because most of the time we're either living in the future or the past, or some combination. We're trying to predict the future based off of our evidence from the past. And isn't it a beautiful thing? We've got this amazing brain, this amazing subconscious mind that's storing everything and cataloging it and telling us, is this safe? Is this not safe? And how can I prevent danger and actually find pleasure and get our needs met, of course? But just being in the body and noticing where you are and where you're breathing from and where you're holding tension and consciously relaxing that is really going to give you a leg up.
And so, if I'm hearing you right, you can do all of this without any additional technology, no medication, nothing, just your time and your focus.
I always say, you are the medicine. And it's not a phrase that I've coined, of course. I'm not even sure I've looked it up. I can't find who originally said that. But yes, medication has a lot of unintended side effects. And we have the ability to tap into the body and really get a lot more granular on where the stress is coming from. We know that, and this is just verifiable, you can look it up. Most neuroses and almost 100%, save about 5 to 10%, depends on which studies you're looking at, of the diseases that we have, particularly in the United States, come as a result of chronic stress. Autoimmune diseases are because of dysregulated nervous systems.
And that was one reason I was really excited to talk to you because, a lot of early founders or solopreneurs or early entrepreneurs, there is an unparalleled amount of stress. If you're working for someone, you may only be working from 9 to 5, 8 to 5. But as an entrepreneur, there's nothing to put in a 16-hour day, 7 days a week. So when you talk about stress, that is the definition of stress. And coupled with maybe income that's not predictable, there's a certain amount of anxiety there. So I love that this is something that you can do in your own time and without any other aids.
Yes, absolutely. And as an entrepreneur, I absolutely agree with you. That famous meme that's, oh, I didn't want a 9 to 5, and now I work 24/7, more like
Right.
28/8, right? It doesn't stop. We wake up in the middle of the night with the brain spiraling, thinking, being creative, trying to problem solve, because it's our baby and we love it so much. And yes, coping with stress is such an important piece of being successful. Something that I really like to teach all of my clients, and this is just science. Einstein established the theory of relativity, that time is relative. Basically, there is only now time. All we have is right now. And studies have shown that when we have some sort of a vacation that goes awry, or that moment that you had a fight with your partner on the side of the road, having to change a tire in the rain, we end up laughing about it. It just depends on it. Now it's an anchoring in the body and the brain. Just depends on how long it's going to be until we're going to laugh about it. All we have is now. And so if we want to be able to regulate ourselves and be able to control how we feel, then how can we play with this moment? How can we relax through the body, breathe through it? I always liken it to a beach ball. It's instead of taking this beach ball and just gripping the heck out of it, we can play with it and say, oh, what is this problem I get to solve? How can I relax into presence? Soften into presence? How can I be in my body and open so that I can actually breathe, so that I can nourish my nervous system instead of allow it to be hijacked by what I call the itty bitty Scherrie committee? I hope I can say that on your pod.
You're fine. You're fine. I promise.
Yeah, I call these space between your ears the itty bitty shitty committee, because it's up there judging and rationalizing and saying really disempowering things a lot. And I'm sure your listeners can relate.
At the beginning of the podcast, you talked about this moment when you were 29 years old. You realized that there's something else going on here and you need to make a change. Is it different now that you have this knowledge that, are there periods in life that you would tell someone, maybe this is something you need to look at in your teens or things you need to teach your children about. So as they grow into adults, they have these tools available. Or for someone who is done with their career and now they're later in life and they're dealing with grandchildren and retirement, are there different tools at different stages in life that can really benefit entrepreneurs as they work through some of these techniques?
Gosh, I think that this should be taught in schools. And I have a child and I've been teaching her a lot of these things along with a lot of other things. We're programming children and we program them by our actions as well as by the things that we say to them regularly and the things that we say to ourselves. I've been very careful to not stand in front of a mirror and speak disparagingly about my body, as some women in my family have shown me to do. And so that's just an example of the fact that, to answer your question, this is important and applicable no matter which stage in life or development you're at. And it's really simple. It's not always easy. And that's why my clients come to me for support. And sometimes simple isn't easy. But when we have the right tools and when we implement them quickly and have the support so that when questions come up, it can be a really powerful way to change our life incrementally day by day. And it begins in this moment because all we have is this moment. It's like your attention, your awareness, it's all you really have. We can't breathe in the past. We can't be present in the past. Just like we can't save money in the past, can't exercise in the past, and we can't do it in the future either. Our breath, our attention, it's currency. It's our energy. And so the way that we spend it is going to affect the way that our lives end up as we age.
So for the busy entrepreneur who says, I just don't have time to think about those types of things, what do you say to that? Because I know you get all sorts of objections in your coaching practice. So please tell us.
I don't have time is my favorite one. And I start out with it at the beginning. It's not a reason. It's not even an excuse. It's a habit. We all have the same amount of time as, you name it, Beyonce, Mark Zuckerberg. We all have the same amount of time.
Same 24 hours.
That's right. It's what we choose to do. It's like when somebody says, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to meditate. I want to. Do they really? They want to. They don't really want to, because if they wanted to, they would. We have the ability to place our time and our attention and our focus wherever we want. I don't have time means I don't want to. In fact, I went live yesterday on my group. I have a private Facebook group called Anxious to Aligned, and it's for women who are high achieving and are looking for nervous system regulation. And it's totally free. You can find it on Facebook groups. And talking about this concept of I can't. Whenever we say I can't, we are giving our power away. And so a really quick way to flip it is just to take your power back and say, I won't. It's not, I can't work out today. It's, I won't work out today. And then it's, ooh, okay, why won't I work out? And when you lift that up, there's usually fear. There's
that is a very powerful reframe, because now you're saying I won't, which means that you are disallowing yourself the benefit of that exercise. So why don't you want that benefit? I love that. How do you know that you have reached mastery with this? Because part of it is the ongoing support and being in a community and working with someone like you who is an expert, because everyone doesn't have to be an expert, but it does help to be in community. How do you know that, one, you're ready for a community and that you've almost reached a level of mastery so that you can go and share this with other people?
I'm not sure if your question is me personally, how do I know, or how do my clients know that?
Your clients, how would your clients know?
My clients really benefit from the community. Of course, I have the Facebook community where people are able to join the free events that we have. And then we have our private community on a platform called School. And that's where all the coursework is and all the live calls that we do every single week. And we bring in experts as well. If somebody's dealing with overwhelming panic, stress, if they're waking up at 2 or 3 a.m. and unable to get back to sleep, if they are super tired and then lay their head on the pillow and then the mind starts going, they're ready for this kind of work, because those are clear signs that there's dysregulation going on and that the mind is controlling the body and the breath. Because to me, those are the three tools for resilience: is body, breath, mind, in that order. Why? Because the body develops first before we ever take a breath. In utero, our body is developing. The breath, most people don't know, we actually take about 3 to 5 weeks to learn how to breathe, and we learn from our primary caregivers, who may be very stressed when we are first born.
Definitely very stressed. I have 2 children, so I know.
And then the mind takes about 7 years to develop. Our subconscious mind is formulated during childhood. That's when we learn how to walk, how to move our tongue without having to think about how to talk, how to carefully put a key into a hole and learn exactly, precisely how to turn it. I've recently been teaching my 8-year-old some of these nuanced things that are really easy for us. It's like, we don't think while we're driving, I need to press the accelerator down 1.5 inches. I need to, all of these things are ingrained into our subconscious and we don't have to think about it. So body first, then breath, then mind. What happens is later on, when we're out of the subconscious programming days, stress is allowing the mind, our thoughts, to control the body and the breath, because our body is going into fight or flight, and that is allowing our breath to be very shallow, which has historically kept Homo sapiens alive, because the breath went shallow, and then we were able to actually conserve our energy before we needed to fight or get the heck out of there. And then, of course, these days we need to activate that diaphragm and breathe in and out of the nose instead of hyperventilating in and out of the mouth, which can cause those panicky moments.
Wow, this is so good. So, for those people who would be interested in a community like yours, I know you mentioned the live calls, the live weekly calls. What are some of the things to look forward to with your community?
We have a masterclass that's absolutely free. You can just go to our website. It's my name, sarathornhill.com, SARA, T like Tom, HO, R like Nancy, HILL.com. Thorn like on a rose, hill like not a mountain is what I like to say. So sarathornhill.com. You can watch our masterclass absolutely free. And that's the first step to joining our community, to ensure that you understand what we're all about. Education is a big piece, but the support is really where our clients benefit the most, because you can learn all you want. It's about the practice and about actually integrating this into our lives. We can go on a retreat or a vacation or have a spa day and feel very relaxed for those few hours or few days. But all of our habits are going to be the same when we come back from whatever siesta we've gone on in whatever way that is. And so this is about integrating it into our lives and being really aware of where we are in space, how we're breathing, and analyzing the thoughts with curiosity instead of judgment, not believing what the itty bitty shitty committee is telling us. Because a lot of it is shoulds. And I always say, don't should on yourself. If somebody's saying you should do this, you shouldn't do that, or if you're saying that to yourself, it's likely rooted in some sort of an expectation from society, someone growing up, and it causes this contraction in the body and the breath. So this awareness is the beginning. It's the foundation. When we have this awareness, unfortunately, a lot of my clients come to me because they've had a panic attack, or they think that they've had a panic attack. They've had some really panicky moments where they can't calm down, like me, ending up in the hospital and not knowing what was going on. So yeah, that's the first step, is just check us out. We have lots of reviews on Google and testimonials on our website. A lot of client success.
Now, with your program, are there any other sorts of, natural pathways, like different types of exercise that you would couple with this to make this an easier process?
Exercise is a great way to relieve stress. Absolutely. It's not a cornerstone of what we do, but absolutely. Starting some sort of an exercise program is great. Now, that is activating our sympathetic nervous system, which, if you're already anxious or dealing with panicky moments, you need parasympathetic nervous system reset. And so there are healthy ways to activate our sympathetic nervous system. When we're laughing, that's sympathetic nervous system. When we're at a fun game or dancing, that's sympathetic nervous system. But when we can't calm down, when we need to, like at night, or when we wake up in the middle of the night and our heart is racing and our mind is racing, that's because we have basically been in a constant state of fight or flight because of all of the, I call it the 3Ds, the deny, distract, dissociate. We've got all these disempowering thoughts, and instead of actually dealing with them, we're trying to accomplish, trying to get things done, trying to do more, be more, play bigger, faster. And listen, I'm president this week. I'm sure you've been president most of the time, and we all get to pass this torch of wanting to play bigger, faster. And when we slow down and go on that spa day or that vacation, or actually able to exhale and feel that relaxation in the chest, that might be the first signal. Wow, I haven't felt this relaxed in months or years or decades. So yeah, sometimes that awareness is the first step.
For you personally, do you have a wind down routine at night before you go to bed? Because I know there are so many people, myself included, sometimes I can't shut it off. I'm in the bed, I'm tired, I want to go to sleep, but my mind is, I got to do this tomorrow, I got to do that, forgot to do this today.
Definitely check out my YouTube. There are a couple of videos on there. There's specifically a playlist for overcoming the overwhelm for busy professionals, I think it's what it's called. And there are several in there. A couple of them are going to be released by the time this podcast is released, but they haven't been released yet, especially regarding sleep. But I'll just tell you some really simple things that are out there and everyone knows. Of course, in the YouTube, I give a lot of really specific things that you can actually practice with me. But very simply, we know that all of these screens and lights are mimicking the sun. And that's going to upset our circadian rhythm. The UV light is going to tell our bodies to be awake. So I shut all of that off. And if I have to be on a screen late, I wear the blue light blocking glasses. Secondly, we don't want to eat 2 or 3 hours before bed, especially sugar, because that's an endocrine disruptor, period. Sugar's an endocrine disruptor all day long, especially right before sleep. And in those YouTubes, I explain a lot of the physiological processes that happen around 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And it's also very important to get proper rest. Starting around 10 p.m. is when your body begins to get rid of an important hormone chemical called adenosine. And we need to get rid of adenosine because if we have adenosine buildup, that's that feeling of fatigue in the body. So going to bed early, limiting screens, and limiting food, especially sugar, are 3 really quick ways that are out there in the culture. We know, right? But we end up doing it sometimes, Netflixing and eating popcorn and desserts. And that is causing our nervous system to be really dysregulated because we're putting all these things that feel like daytime into our eyes and into our mouths.
So even with a 10 o'clock bedtime, are you an advocate that everyone needs 8 hours of sleep? Or can you be as effective with less than 8 hours of sleep as long as you're doing these other things?
I've been meditating for 8-9 years now, and I need about 4.5 or 5 hours of sleep. I get up around 3:30 or 4, and I do my personal practices, and then I'm able to get in some solid work before my daughter wakes up. And I used to need 6.5 hours. And of course, I don't drink anymore, but when I used to drink, I needed a lot more. And now, because I'm not having all that sugar late at night and I'm not putting the toxins into my body, I don't need as much sleep as I used to. And then the meditation itself actually relaxes the brain. And it's like, they say that when you're a regular meditator, not an occasional meditator, but when you're a regular meditator, 20 minutes of deep meditation is equivalent to 8 hours of sleep as far as the repair neurologically that happens in the brain. And so I do have some clients that I just teach how to meditate because they want to meditate, but they need the accountability. And a lot of people think that there's only one way to meditate. They think that they need to sit cross-legged. They need to clear their mind. They think that something is supposed to happen when they're meditating, when really there are thousands of different ways to meditate, and you don't need to shut off the thoughts at all. And I give people styles of meditation that you don't need a phone, you don't need guided. You're actually able to do it in Costa Rica under a waterfall if these pocket-sized techniques that you really don't need a pocket for at all.
Now, when making the distinction between someone who meditates on a regular basis versus someone who's occasional, how would you define that? Because I may feel 3 times a week meditating is decent, but on a regular basis to get to 3.5 to 4 hours of sleep a night, how many times would you recommend that someone might meditate?
I meditate for at least 20 minutes twice a day.
7 days a week?
Oh, absolutely. And if it's a stressful
Okay.
day, oh yeah. And then the car, when you're not driving, when you're in a safe place, when you've got your seatbelt on and
Right.
everything's locked, the car is a really great place to meditate. You can be like, hey, honey, I'm on the way home with the groceries. And take a few minutes, even if it's just 3 or 4 minutes. Shutting the eyes is a really magical way to be in touch with the body and the breath. We have 5 senses and 11 million sensory receptors. But unbelievably, 10 million out of our 11 million sensory receptors are connected directly to our eyes. So just by shutting the eyelids and tapping into what's happening in the body, particularly paying attention to the breath, the pure sensation of the breath, we enact a lot of control because we're shutting off the visual input and able to develop that interoception. Interoception comes into play when we are hungry or when we feel cold. It's the body's internal processes that come to the surface, to the conscious mind. So it's really important to make sure you're paying attention throughout the day and just shutting the eyes and taking a few minutes. I always say, whenever you start meditating, start really small. Just start with 3 minutes twice a day. And then you can increase it to 4 minutes twice a day. It's about building the habit, not about trying to sit down and tackle 20 minutes when people are like, oh, I can't stop my thoughts. I can't do this. I'm too nervous, agitated. And hearkening back to a previous question that you asked, after exercise is a fantastic time to meditate. I always say, get the wiggles out. Sit down sweaty. Don't go take a shower. Just put a little towel down and sit down sweaty. You're going to have a lot better time with your meditation when you've gotten a lot of the wiggles out.
So you've given us so many great nuggets, but if you had just one piece of advice to share with entrepreneurs on how to play big faster, what would it be?
Meditate. Find the kind that works for you. It's the biggest nervous system reset that anybody can do. It's totally free. Sure, people pay me a lot to teach them how to meditate because I'm a master meditation teacher by training, but it's free. You can find it on YouTube. There's so many apps. You can pay $100 a year for breathwork apps, calm apps, you name it. It's out there. And it wasn't like that even 10, 20 years ago. Meditate. Make time every single day. We eat every day. We sleep every day, hopefully. We eliminate every day. And meditation is a really big biohack. Obviously, getting sunshine and spending time with family. We need that connection to the earth and to our community. But you are the most permanent relationship in your life. you're the most permanent relationship in your life. And everybody wants to get better. They want self-optimization, but they're not willing to spend time with themselves. If you want to self-optimize, get to know the inner workings of the brain, because 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. And when we can watch them with awareness, with curiosity instead of judgment, we have just ascended to master.
And you've shared with us how to get your master class. But if someone wanted to contact you directly or find out more about you or work with you, what's the best way to reach you?
That masterclass right now is the only way to schedule with me. Now, there is a hidden button somewhere on my website where you can book in for 15 minutes with me. There's a cost, though. If you just watch I think it's 30 or 45 minutes, my masterclass training, then you can book in for free with me or somebody on my team.
That is so great. Look, thank you so much, Sara, for joining us. And definitely, I'm going to check your YouTube page out. And I invite anyone who has watched our conversation or listened to it to please go to YouTube and find Sara Thornhill and just find out more about what she does and how she helps folks.
It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
You as well. And to everyone out there, play big faster.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Play Big Faster podcast. Want more entrepreneurial content?
I like this.
Make sure to subscribe for future episodes.
Already subscribed.
I just clicked on it.
Don't forget to like and leave a review. Share with a friend that needs this in their life.
I think you need this more than I.
Oh, and make sure to follow Scherrie on IG at Scherrie Speaks. And remember to play big faster.